Welcome to Off the Cut episode 113 for Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. As always, we do want to continue to remind you that the worst podcast available on Apple and Spotify is in fact the Green Suiters podcast. But Zach, the best place to buy woodworking tools is Katz Moses Tools.
I believe it's pronounced KM Tools.
That's true. Well, if it's in their store, it's in their store.
We're going to lose the sponsorship, aren't we? Jonathan's going to listen to this and be like, what am I paying these guys for? But seriously, though, they have some of the best tools in the woodworking space because either it's stuff they actually use in their own workshops or it's stuff that Jonathan and his team have created from scratch. It's really impressive stuff.
And the newest one is the jig squaring? Jig? Square?
I think it's just called the jig square, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever it is. It is nuts. You can make a crosscut sled in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Perfectly square.
Gone is the 5-cut method. All you need is this jig square and you will be off to the races and laughing.
I don't think anybody actually does the 5-cut method.
I think angry people who comment on the internet say they do the 5-cut method, but then don't actually do it.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, anyway, if you want to check out that and any of the other tools that Jonathan has over at kmtools.com, know that a portion of every sale goes directly towards the Katz Moses Woodworkers with Disabilities Fund, which gets tools and resources into the hands of folks who need it most. But what's good for the listeners, Zach?
Well, Jonathan also provides our Patreon supporters, I almost said all our listeners, but our Patreon listeners with a $50 gift card every single month. So all you got to do to enter the drawing that we hold once a month is become a patron. Yeah. It's real simple.
Super easy. Well, anyway, speaking of tools, we're joined with...
the biggest tool of them all.
Speaking of tools, we were joined with yet another guest tonight on the podcast.
That's right.
He's a co-host of a podcast that, just like the Green Suiters podcast, is available on Apple and Spotify. But unlike the Green Suiters podcast, it doesn't suck. He's famous for his 7-minute staining video. He moonlights as a calf model on his IG page, Vic's Calves. We welcome to the show tonight yet another Canadian, Vic from the Stump Shop.
Woo! Woo. Welcome.
Let me just shameless plug, onlycavs.com. I'm starting off, actually. It's coming out soon, but thank you for that intro. I've been pumping these calves extra hard for tonight's episode. Thanks for having me on, boys.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for joining us this time.
Yeah, that's last week. I apologize for that. I mean, I don't know how flexible you guys are. You guys seem pretty cool about it in the DMs, but I almost died, so I had to kind of go for some surgery. And these guys, I was supposed to record with these boys. So I just said, hey, listen, maybe I'll take I'll take tonight off and recover. My mom had to drive me and everything. And I kind of exaggerate. I never almost died. It was a routine thing. But the whole point was I was knocked out and I couldn't drink. And that's what makes podcasts fun. Tonight I'm drinking. So.
Oh, I should go get a beer. All I have is a bubbly water right here.
Everybody listening, Vic, he sends us a message and it's like an hour or something before the show. And he's like, so I'm on some painkillers. He's like, I can get on the podcast tonight, but I might not make a lot of sense.
I wasn't going to skip it unless I got the the permission.
It's true. You said like a week before, you were like, I have surgery earlier in the day, and then I'll record later in the afternoon with you guys. And we're like, oh, okay. Like that seems like a bold move, but let's let Vic make that call. And then we got the message a little bit later. It was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, see, in my head, I was like, okay, maybe he's just getting like a mole removed or like,
that's why,
like a hangnail taken care of or something like that.
It was actually just a massage appointment, but I just didn't want to do anything all night after. I had my mom pick me up from the massage parlor. It was quite awkward since I'm 42. Am I the oldest one here? I think I am by far, right?
I'm 31.
Hold on, we're 35? All men here. We're going to ask each other ages. That's okay. I know you're not.
These days, but I'm offended. Yeah, I'm 35.
35. Yeah, 43. So I'm the oldest.
43?
Are you? Oh, okay.
Derek's a young 43, though.
Yeah, Deric looks good.
Yeah, he does. That's why I even said that a few seconds ago. I'm definitely the oldest one here, but I am not. I am not anymore. So thank you for being honest. I'd lose at a carnival. I would have said you're like 42 and a half max, So no, I'm kidding.
Do you ever that carnival game is a scam though? Because they're what's it like within 4 months or whatever?
Is that what it is? I thought it was within a year or something, plus or minus.
Well, I think you can do like the guess the month of the year that you're born, and if it's within like 4 months, so they get 4 months over, 4 months under, and the actual month. So it's really a 9 out of 12 chance that they get it right.
Yeah,
I hear that. Yeah, one of these street scammer things. I was in Vegas not long ago with Dom and my wife and his wife, and they had this bar out. And mind you, when you're in Vegas, you're drinking a lot, right? So I said, "There's no way I'm doing this challenge because it's definitely rigged." But there was this guy out there with a bar and a timer and everything, and it's all open. Like there's no obvious cheating going on because you can see what's happening, and a big sign that says "Hang for 100 seconds and you win $100." And I'm like, okay, that seems fair. But mind you, 100 seconds is almost 2 minutes, right? So I didn't do it, but then I did it at the playground the other day with my kids and timed it, and I would have been able to do it. But now I'm like, these things are all rigged. I don't think in Vegas I would have made it. They're all a scam. But
it's funny. I was maybe. You have to like keep like cranking your wrists. I was telling my buddy, I was telling these guys actually a couple weeks ago, I went to one of these places with the ice tank, and you like get in the ice tank and you see how long you can stay in there for. And I was telling my other friend about it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm doing the similar thing where he was hanging from the bar in the gym and seeing how long he could do it for." And he was saying he was like surprised, like it's actually really hard to do it for more than a minute 30 or something like that. So I guess I don't know. Maybe the average person. You're a pretty buff guy, Vic, so you probably had an easy time with it. But
the average
I did not. Person,
it was tough. My boy was running the stopwatch, and I was like, I just want to know if I can make 100 because I want that $100 next time I go to Vegas. And I did it, and like even now you won't be able to tell, but like I have crazy calluses and stuff. My hands were all hurting after, and I was like, damn. Then my boy tried, and he got like almost a minute. I was like, that's super impressive for a little kid, right? A minute.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard to hang, and your joints start hurting. You start to really feel your age. Deric knows what I'm talking about.
Do you guys remember doing monkey bars as a kid?
Yeah,
of course.
There was no problem. You just like grabbed on and you go. You tried doing monkey bars within the last 10 years of your life?
I know.
You can.
That's true. I took my nephew to the park a little while ago, and I was trying to do it there, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is like my shoulders were sore for the next 2 days."
Yeah, you're holding 200 pounds up, but when you were a kid, you weighed like 40 pounds.
I actually remember there was like an inflection point, like when you're like 0 to 5, you can't do the monkey bars because you can't reach and you just don't have the upper body strength. But then you hit like 7 or 8 and you're starting to get a little stronger, and then you can do it. But then once you press like the backside of 25 or something like that, it starts to get really hard again.
Yeah, my little girl's at that age now where she's every day. She's hanging from her feet, man, and that worries me as a parent. Honestly, even today, I just keep walking laps around the park while they play, and I'm watching from a distance, going, no, like she's hanging by her feet. When you hook it into the next monkey bar, I'm like,
oh yeah,
wow,
you're getting hurt. But B, I'm gonna have to now come and try that because like I gotta show off. I'm like, I'm gonna die if I do that. Right? But
is your daughter in the circus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ringling
Brothers. In Canada. It's mandatory. Actually, you serve 2 years in the circus.
We have the draft up here, but it's for the circus.
the Canadian circus draft.
Cirque du Soleil.
Is that Ontario only?
Yeah.
No. Canada-wide minus Quebec. They don't count for anything.
Yeah.
Oh. It's not as big of a joke as Instagram is recently these days.
Actually, I was going to tell you guys. I had this in my notes here. Obviously, I made a couple notes. Coming on this podcast, and I'm going to be using tonight as like a therapy session almost because
do it out. Let it
it's
out.
killing me tonight, man. Or I should say recently, right? It's I get I don't know if we're going to hop right into it, but you guys know my passion, obviously because of my other podcast and all that. But I focus way too much on Instagram. I'm noticing that's my problem versus like obviously YouTube versus real life, like just enjoying life. You know what I mean? I spend too much time on Instagram and focus. And then when you don't get those numbers, like lately, even though my views are still okay relative to my followers, I don't see it resulting in much versus how, like, even a month ago or something where a banger video or like, let's say 100,000 views would then boom, it would result in, for me anyways, because I still use it to sell stuff, sales plus followers, this and that. And now I'm like, okay, I still get the views. My latest reel has 40 or 50,000 views. Still amazing for Instagram.
Yeah. Right.
But it's not doing much for like in the back end for what I like to see from big videos. You know what I mean? Right. And that's what's pissing me off, man. I don't know.
So do you think is there some, Vic, you'll have to bear with me here because I haven't really been on Instagram for the last 6 months or so because I got so fed up with it. Is there been
you're doing good on YouTube, right? So that's maybe...
Yeah. I mean,
killing it on YouTube.
We talk about this on the podcast, but just like, and I think you're making like the right choice to some degree is like you just focus on one of them. And then don't worry, like, don't try and be this guy who does, like, all the things, which I did for a long time. But so back to the point is, the question I had, has there been some big change on Instagram? Or is it just kind of like this, like, slow roll of it getting crappier and crappier that we've been dealing with for years?
I think... So I have to be honest. Is there been a change lately, or is there a change going on? Of course, there always is, literally. Like, and that's if you follow Adam Mazzari or follow any of those other podcasts that focus strictly on the gram, they admit it. It's always changing, right?
Yeah.
But this is me personally, Vic. My opinion is, when there's people blowing up, there's people suffering. The people suffering will say like, oh man, Instagram's going through a slump, right? And the reason I say this is because I've been in both situations and I actually compare it to others. Like Dom and I chat every day. Mark, we used to chat every day. He's, because he left the podcast, he's not in the podcast group chat anymore, obviously. So not as much feedback from him. But there's other people I talk to all the time and they're like, damn, man, I haven't grown in a year. And I'm like thinking in my head, and I never... humble brag, or I don't brag. And I'm in my head, I'm just like, fuck, man, that sucks. Instagram's shit. And this year for me has been amazing. So it's like, and then other years where I'm like, dude, I haven't done anything for 6 months here and I'm busting my ass doing good videos, all the same stuff. I haven't grown at all. And then other people will be like, I could see their numbers growing by 10,000 every month. So I always think like, even when Instagram is changing, or yes, the algorithm's changing, you're either going to be hitting it or not. Just keep doing what you do. And is it hard to not let it bring you down? Obviously. Like, that's why I said, I'm going to use you guys as like a therapy session tonight. Cause it pisses me off too. But at the same time, I personally, my own opinion, I don't believe in that whole, like, Instagram's going through something right now. Does that make sense? Like,
No, I get that,
but
sure.
At the same time, there's people right now, as we talk on this podcast, that just gained like 5,000 followers because of a reel that blew up. So it's like, I don't know.
Honestly,
for me, it's
like, to some point, it's your fault. Like, I'm not growing on Instagram. Why? Because I'm not focusing on it. Neither are you, Zach. Like, it is 100% your own fault.
Well, I think, and I think one of the hardest things that you have to accept as a content creator is that there's going to be ups and downs, and it's not always going to be like, it's not always going to be a banner year or banner month or something like that. So you kind of, part of the skill of it is learning to ride those various waves. Yeah. I think about a lot of my Instagram growth, like I used to do big jumps. I'd struggle somewhere, I remember like 14K. I had like 14,000 followers for the longest time, for like a whole year. And then the next year went from like 14 to, 75 or something like that. It was like these big growth spurts that come. So part of it's about just grinding it out and trying new things and seeing what works. But it's hard. It's emotionally very hard.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not just the numbers these days too. Like what happens, sorry to cut you off. I just want to spit this out there. There's a lot of times in terms of, if you're looking at Instagram like a way to make money, not like by selling stuff, but if you're looking at Instagram as a way to make money. I know, Eric, we touched on this a little bit when you came on our show, but it sucks for those of us that have been grinding since, I say day one. I mean, like if you've been on the gram for longer than 5, 6, whatever, I've been on it for, August will be 10 years. If you've been on it since day one, it sucks versus what you see now. And I'm not taking away anything from anyone, but someone will come, hit a reel that boom is good reel, they make good content, but they just started like a year ago or a month ago. Suddenly they have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and once again, good for you. Congratulations. I'm sure you deserve it. It's just hard for us that have been doing it forever. And now brands are going to those people. And those people aren't even charging as much as you would because they just started. So they don't know their own value. So that also adds to a little bit of like the slap in the face when it comes to the gram these days.
Right.
But anyways.
And it reminds me,
doesn't pay you.
I'm gonna flip my table here.
Yeah, and the platform doesn't pay you, so it's it's really hard when you're relying on those brand deals as a way to generate the majority. Well, actually, I don't know. Like Vic, let's talk about that because you're all in on Instagram. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, you don't have to give specific numbers, but what's your split between like products and brand deals, and what's that like for you?
I don't mind talking numbers ever, man. Like people always message me and stuff, and I'm pretty real about it. I also want to throw this out there that most people that know me as a friend or more than just on Instagram know that I don't do this full time. Like this is like, it's like not even like part time. It's like on the bottom burner, right? Which is why when people see Instagram and what I do on the gram, whether it's the videos or in my stories, I'll always list what's for sale. They think, and I admit it, I make it look like I do a lot, okay, but I don't really do that much in real life because I have a full-time job which is long hours and stressful. I obviously have a family, and that's always just like most good men out there or women, family's always number one, so that's the same with me. And then obviously I have my podcast, I have the house to maintain, this and that. So it's, I don't know, I guess my time, that few minutes of free time that I get here and there is the Stump Shop for me. That's why it's all out. Yeah. Once I can leave the full-time gig, which I'm hoping in the next like 8 to 10 years I can retire, then I would like to switch more to like the woodworking side of things and actually go back to selling. Okay, so I like to say this with a little bit of a, I'm not like very educated, but I'm also not a dumb guy, okay? Like I'm not a paper educated guy, but I also like to, I've seen over the 10 years where I can make money, where my time is best served, this and that, right? So in terms of this world we're in, Zach, to answer your question, I know building a table for me these days isn't worth it versus a brand paying me for that same video. Okay, I'm just going to get that out there. Or even cutting boards. I love making cutting boards and trays. I just made an order of, I think, 7 or 8 trays for someone. I like doing it. I love woodworking. But those few $100 I make, I'm sorry, but versus, you guys know on YouTube, I'm sure, versus a brand that'll pay you way more. Yeah. It's a battle because I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a bath and wash my hair because Dove's paying me to do that. Yeah. And they're paying me way more than someone would for a cutting board. Yeah. But I actually enjoy making the cutting board more and using my tools and getting sawdust in my hair. So it's like, I just never know. Like I'm always battling myself, which today was a perfect example. I just hit the road and said, Zach, you know where I live. I live north of the city. I'm going even more north just for like an hour or two drive before the kids get home. Because at home, I'm just, it's like a constant like mind struggle as to what I should do. Where should I spend my time? Yeah. So anyway, Zach, hope that was a long answer to your question, but it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
But it seems like what you're saying is what we get people ask all the time, like, should I start YouTube? Should I do this? Should I do that? And our answer is, do what you enjoy doing, and you'll be able to find success, whatever that means to you, in what you enjoy. Like,
yeah.
Even if it is doing sponsored brand deals, if you find a way to screw around and like enjoy making those deliverables, so like the Dove ad, like you could make a funny video of you taking a bath, and like you could be like, that was fun to produce that, and I also got paid. Like that's a win-win. But when it's just miserable to do something, stop doing it.
Yeah, well, I find like I've always looked at the brand deals as like a means to an end, right? Like that's like kind of the crappy part of your job. And maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. Maybe I should be more like what you're saying, Eric. But like it's the part of the job where you put in the work, you grind it out a little bit, and then that funds like the next project or the next month of just getting to build the stuff that you actually want to build, right? Like, like the integrations in the YouTube video, like that funds the rest of the video. So when I sit down to do an ad read for a thing, it's like, is that the most enjoyable part of my job? No, but it enables me to then do the stuff that I'm really like super psyched on.
Yeah, you spend an hour to do the ad read, and then you're like, okay, now I can do the fun stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I also used to feel like a lot more when I was first started actually doing like ads versus just, hey, can you tag us in a story versus like actual reels, which are like paid, partnership. And now you're like, it's a full Dove ad. The reason they wanted you to do that is so that they can promote it on their end and keep, pumping those. But once you start doing more of those, you start to lose that feeling of, because when I first started doing that, I would think like people will watch me and go, what the hell, Vic's always showing us woodworking stuff or cooking or with the kids, and now he's doing this full-on ad. Screw him. And I always worried at first people would be like, sell out, they'd unfollow this. And I'll tell you right now, the more I do of those, I start to care less about that, because I then say to people, I don't say this to anyone, I'm not going to say, thousands of you asked me. No one asked me. But if I were to tell someone, I would say this. The things all of us, I guarantee you out of the four of us, we spend our free time on is Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, whatever it is that's entertainment in terms of that. None of those are ad-free anymore. Well, Netflix is, but you pay a shitload. Amazon Prime even, I'm watching it. Ads are popping up. You're listening to the radio, there's ads. So what difference is it if I'm watching, Spensley Designs videos and suddenly there's an ad that pops up? It shouldn't bother me just because I know Eric. Does that make sense? Like, okay, so what? Like now I'm watching a video by Zach Bills. That's a sick video. And I'm going to get mad because he's got an ad in the middle of it. Like, don't be silly, right? People that are listening.
I think there's a weird thing that happens when smaller creators get ads. People get mad about it. Like I remember back in the day, you used to read the comments, people get mad about it. But the bigger the creator is, the less it seems like people care about ads. And I've always thought that was like such a weird thing. Like you should be cheering for the little guy when they get like a sponsorship, right? It's like that's so much more impactful to them and their business than some big creator getting yet another partnership. Like, but people don't seem to mind when bigger creators.
I think maybe
bats an eye when Home Depot puts their name on the side of NASCAR.
Totally, yeah.
But then somebody that's got 1,000 followers gets a Home Depot ad, and they're like, "Holy smokes! This funded my whole laundry room renovation." Then people are like, "Oh, you're such a sellout."
You're a sellout,
Right?
They'll come up with reasons why to boycott Home Depot. I'm like, why would you boycott Home? That has nothing to do.
You're telling me that if somebody comes up to you and is like, "Hey, I'll redo your entire kitchen if you make a 30-second ad for Home Depot," you're really going to tell me that you're not going to take that? If it's not compromising your morals and all, all that stuff, obviously.
Yeah. But even ones that are like I've done some weird ads, man, I'll be honest. And some of them I was able to negotiate down to just stories because I was like, this is not living in my like Reels feed. Even though it gets buried eventually, but like, some weird beer companies that like are just terrible, like fruity beers. I'm like, I'll still do it because it's not untrue that I would drink that. You know what I mean? Like, I still drink beers. And then what Eric said, it's true. Like if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we'll pay you to drink this beer and make a video," I there's a part of me I don't care what anyone says. You'd be stupid to say no, right? No, my followers won't like that. They won't see it. Yeah, they won't see it. First of all, 7 people will see my stories. It's great. Anyway.
Well, and I think another thing about being a content creator is like as you go on through time, like you're gonna kind of like sift through people almost. Like, you're gonna lose maybe 50 people when you do an ad or something like that. But then all the people who stay are people who don't mind you doing ads, right? So it's like then the next time you do one, it's like those 50 are already gone, so it's like no big deal. So I think that you do take those hits early on, but then you build an audience that kind of, okay, Vic does a ad read every once in a while. I get it. He's got a family to support. He's got a shop to support. And so you start accumulating this audience that understands what you're doing. Versus early on, it's like, okay, maybe you get a few people who don't understand and you lose them along the way. It's not that big a deal.
I'm sure sports teams have the same thing, right? Sports teams are probably
like minor league teams and stuff.
Yeah, they got a certain sponsor for their team or a certain player came to the team and now a certain player left and now people are no longer interested. Like that's unfortunately just kind of the reality of groups in general. You're going to have people join groups and you're going to have people leave groups. I don't necessarily think that one specific ad within reason is just doing some huge detrimental effect on your group.
Yeah. You know what could affect your group? I think this is, once again, I always throw this out there. If you guys ever listen to my podcast, I make it very clear. A lot of the stuff I preach is my opinion because I don't back it by facts.
Right.
But anyways, but you know what I mean? Like Dom and I.
No, totally. Yeah.
Like, hey, listen, this is just what we think, right? But anyways, now that I said that so, with pride, I actually forget what I was going to say. So if you guys want to move on to like another segment or something, I had something I was going to say. And then I was like, oh no, I got to do that whole, this is my opinion thing. And then I actually forgot what I was going to say, but
there should be like a splash screen, like in front of every YouTube video I do and every podcast I do. It's like, I'm just a dude, like, like just because I'm like on a screen or you're listening to me through your headphones, it's like, my opinion's not any more valid than anybody else's. It's like, we're all just trying to do our best. And yeah.
100%.
It's silly. Well, I want to ask you guys this one. I was thinking about this the other day, and it'd be interesting to have even another. This totally changing topics. Another input on this. So you remember like apps, like, phone apps and stuff have come to light, I don't know, it's been like 15 years or so. There's never really been a woodworking app that people talk about. You ever thought like, is there any sort of technology that you just really, really wish that you had in the workshop that like actually was useful?
You know what? Let me go first here because I have an actual answer for you.
Okay? Seriously, yeah.
Okay, sweet.
So, you're scrolling through Instagram, whatever, and you see the app ads, right? That take you right to the Apple Store. I'm an Apple guy, so it takes you right to the App Store. And it was one where you can identify trees based off a picture of the end grain. Okay? What? And then not only that, but like pictures of like plants and different potted plants and stuff. So the commercial made it look like, someone took a picture of like let's say like a cactus plant or whatever it is. And then boom, the screen will show you like the AI analyzing it. And then it tells you what it is. Next thing you know, this guy goes into the shop or wherever it is. And, basically you cut a log and take a picture of the end grain with the rings exposed. Yeah. And of course, AI does its thing. And then it shows you, it comes back like, ash or whatever wood, right? And it tells you like maple, what type of maple. And so I was like, fuck, sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
No, you're good. You're good.
Swear away, my friend. Swear away.
I go, fuck, that's going to be like the app for me of all people. I can stop sending pictures. I have so many arborists on standby. I send pictures to of trees and I'm like, hey, let's just go again. Are you sure this isn't that? And back and forth. So I buy that app, and it's one of those like ones that I'm like, okay, good. It's a little bit more expensive because it's somehow like a 99-cent app or $129 these days. You're like, that's going to be a piece of
$5.99. That's got to be a good app.
Yeah, exactly. See, I get caught up in that whole like the more expensive the candle, the better it smells, right? So I'm like, all right, I buy this app, and I go inside, and of course, the first plant I take a picture of is it's a pretty common plant most people have in their house. Whatever it is. Anyways, I forget what it is, but I take a picture and it shows it and it runs it through and tells me the name of it because I was just testing it. I go, this is the best app I've ever bought. I go immediately out to my garage and I'm like, all right, this technology better be pictures, scanning. None of them came back. Every single stump I had was not found, unable to. So I'm like, this is such a piece of shit. So to answer your question, Eric, they need an app like that works.
Yes. Okay. That's a good idea. That would be,
Okay.
I would enjoy it because people send me all the time. They'll send me like pictures of stuff and they'll be like, what kind of wood is this? And it'd be good if I could just be like, hey, just download this app. Quit bothering me.
Right? Yeah. It's only $5.99.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the one I used to use and it's been out for a while. I think it has to have been a good 10 years ago this one came out. But you could stand in the center of your room and scan and trace the corners of your room, and it would give you the measurements of the room and everything.
Yeah.
But it would only work like the first time or two, and even then it wasn't terribly accurate. It was off by a couple inches usually. And it just got progressively worse the more you used it. I've never seen one of those that worked out well, but if I come across one, it would be worth gold.
Yeah.
Can you imagine trusting those fully to make like built-ins? Just the
phone.
Yeah. Just take whatever measurement your phone says and go make actual.
Goes down to the 30-second.
Yeah,
like, oh,
I mean,
all right, 37 feet.
It's like maple 3/4 inch, dude.
The iPhones have LiDAR scanners in them. Have you ever seen those apps where you can use your phone to like 3D scan an object? You just like move it around.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, then like, I don't know, maybe that's not that crazy of an idea that they could.
Have you ever used one to 3D scan an object?
No, I have not. I had
like Dave does. I don't know if you guys watch 3D.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But he does. He has all that stuff. He'll go to like, wasn't he at Workbench Con making like figurines of people and stuff? And
the
puppet.
Yeah, I was talking to him there.
Yeah, he seems like a good dude.
So you're saying like basically like using your phone almost as a laser measure, but it's just kind of like a scan, and then it's just like, oh, that's 17 feet in 1/32 of an inch or something, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I could get behind something like that.
Okay.
You know what I've started doing on my CNC, because we do, obviously we have centimeters and versus inches, this and that. My CNC software is in inches, but my most accurate rulers are in millimeters. I'm sorry, like that's just how I am. Okay, so I'll have like a yardstick with like accurate millimeters. So I'll measure something, and then I'll write down the exact millimeters it is. And then I go and ask Alexa or punch it into my phone, this exact millimeters, what is that in inches? And then it's going to be a number that like none of us would ever be able to guess off of a tape measure. So then that's what I build my stuff off in the CNC. You know what I mean? Like that's how I get the most accurate. Instead of saying like, this is about, 16 3/4 inches, it'll be like 16 and like Eric was saying, like down to like a 0 point, some decimal point. That way. Otherwise we would never know. So that's worked out for me recently.
Why don't you just use
Does
calipers?
the CNC not do millimeters?
Maybe.
Which one do you have, Vic?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the software I use is still Carbide Create Pro, but my CNC is the Onefinity.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
That's a Canadian company.
Paint too.
What's that?
You use Microsoft Paint for all of your digital designs too.
I do. Hey, who answered my text earlier when I said, "Hey, will this link work in Microsoft?"
Yeah, that was me.
That was Deric.
I guess you didn't catch that joke. That was Apple's first ever computer in like 1984 or something.
Oh.
And then he actually answers me. He's like, "Yeah, it should work in all softwares or whatever." Like,
that one went way beyond you, Deric.
Yeah.
My God.
I guess we don't chat enough in DMs to know that I'm serious like 4% of the time, and the rest like are absolutely make no sense.
So what I was thinking of, and I know that they make this, is a table saw fence that you type in the numbers and it like automatically moves itself to there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's that thing called? I've seen it for a miter saw, not for a table saw. There's like an adjustable fence.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like it clearly doesn't work very well, or everyone would have it, right?
True. Doesn't the Festool table saw, you can dial in the blade height digitally, right?
And the angle. Yeah.
And the angle too? Oh, okay. Yeah. But then not the fence.
Not the fence.
Come on, Festool. What are you doing?
Yeah. I'm sure it's there. It's just...
Talk about half-assing it.
Yeah, I know.
I think it might work. Just people are either scared to rely on it, or is it more expensive, or like to buy that actual like attachment that would like could I make my DeWalt table saw into that digital one if I add this thing to it? Maybe. And if I can, then I would also say like, hey, I've been doing okay with it for 7 years. Why do I need it? Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's so. Maybe it is actually super accurate, but no one has it.
What if they had something where you could like upload the plans and you could say like, okay, I want to make this piece. It's like one cut. You're like, okay, move on to the next cut. It automatically adjusts, and then you do it again. Yeah.
Oh,
that would be nuts.
I'll take that up a notch. What if you could upload your plans into an app, and you have you heard of this app called like Fitbod, where you tell it like what equipment you have to work out with, and then it tailors a workout.
Like a workout. Yeah, I've heard that one.
My buddy uses that
for your shop. You enter in all the tools you have for your shop.
That's a good idea.
And then you punch in your design, and it tells you what tools you need.
And it just tells you to go buy a domino.
Yeah, it'd be like, buy a Fraxel, you cheap ass.
I do that for cooking. I'll open up my fridge and be like, I have 3 eggs, some 6-week-old lettuce,
Yeah.
4
Changing of the
half-rotten onions. What can I make? And it says nothing. Throw it all out and go to McDonald's. I'm like, all right.
It just responds back, you're poor, go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
It just looks at the date and goes, only 2 more days till food stamps. I don't know. We don't have food stamps in Canada. I don't think so.
So
It's an American thing.
But so you guys were thinking of apps, and I was thinking of like a tool. You know what else would be nice? Because maybe it's just me. A digital readout on a router, and hear me out.
Oh yeah,
you go to like, you plunge down and you're like, oh man, it's just slightly off, and then you go to spin the little dial and you're like, damn it, I don't remember if I'm trying to go up or down. And then now you lost where you were at.
Yeah,
and you're like, well, screw it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like
Just gonna make the whole thing deeper. Yeah.
And now it's too deep or it's too shallow, and then you realize you messed the whole thing up. They need a digital readout on a plunge router.
If anyone's going to invent that, I feel like it's going to be the Germans. Like, it's going to come out in Germany first.
I agree.
It's going to come, and then it's going to make its way to North America.
Yeah.
No?
I mean, just take the same technology from the Festool table saw and flip it upside down and put it in a router.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. $1 million
What's this
product.
thing about
There is a router
SawStop
that does
losing their... There probably is it.
So the whole SawStop thing, how I understand it is it the U.S. government or is it Canada as well?
Someone's saying like they now have to allow that technology in all saws to save fingers, right?
yeah.
I guess.
Wow.
So my understanding is that the U.S. passed something or is trying to pass something that after a certain specified amount of time, every saw sold has to have like the safety feature. And SawStop, my understanding is they said if that happens, then they will release that technology to everyone so that everyone can be safe. Because there's
interesting.
like a tested safety thing, and they know that it works.
Right.
But until then, they're not. That's how I understand it.
But isn't that going to make... How are you going to have like cheap little job site saws? And isn't then every table saw going to cost $1,000?
I guess that technology is going to drop in price if it becomes.
I guess, yeah.
It's like imagine the first person that invented a brake light, and the other companies were like,
True.
We need that brake light. Like it's going to help us save lives, and then eventually, like it just becomes part of. I don't know, Zach. Maybe that technology, if it's not patented anymore by SawStop, will drastically reduce the price on.
I guess at the end of the day, like it's just a spring smashing a piece of metal into the blade. Like it's not
just shoving that brake into it, right? So,
yeah.
But I guess are the blades different? I don't know. I don't have a SawStop, but are the blades themselves?
No, you can use whatever blade you want in it.
You can't use it after it goes off, but blade.
Yeah, I guess it would probably damage a couple teeth, eh?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this though. So a SawStop is what? I mean, the cheapest job site one is what, like $1,500 or something like that?
I was just gonna look that up.
Cheapest job site saw? No, you can get them for under $500.
But the SawStop one.
Cheap.
Really?
Oh, the SawStop.
Used? SawStop.
Yeah,
so like, a SawStop's gonna run you like at least $2,000-$3,000, you know, right?
Yeah.
If Wen put out a SawStop technology table saw and it was $110, would you trust it?
I would. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't. It's like
I
a
don't
backup
think it'll be
thing.
any worse than the DeWalt I use now or whatever.
I mean, like,
you know what I mean?
how much worse could it be than a normal wind saw too?
That's what I'm
If
saying.
anything, it's a little safer. And to answer your question, the cheapest SawStop, the compact table saw in the U.S. goes for $899.
Okay.
Not bad.
That's over $1,000 Canadian. Yeah, that's about right.
But nobody in their right mind would ever take that to a job site.
I know, it's such a weird thing. It's like, I guess that's more aimed at DIYers, despite being called...
that is. Because they have a job site as well. That's
DIYers in the
step
Hampton
up.
or something.
And the job site one is $1,600.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Like, Zach, can you imagine having that in your truck and like taking it to a job site and having all of your guys use it, they would set that thing off in 20 minutes.
Right.
Every single job site I've ever been on, whenever there's a table saw, it's like the ricketiest old piece of crap. It's, it vibrates as soon as you turn it on, and it's like, it's jumping around in place. Yeah. It's got the dullest blade in the world on it. Yeah.
It's still chained to like the picnic table or something. So no one feels
Yeah.
It's locked at 90.
The table saw has the saw stop technology. Like, if you had to design other tools from the ground up, like, can you think of ways to make things dramatically more safe?
You know what? Why don't we ask this? Of the four of us, what's the worst injury you've ever had, and with what tool? And how would you improve that tool? Because I lost like a good, obviously you can't tell now, but my thumb ended up being like almost like a triangle for a good 2 years. Like the entire right tip of my thumb was gone.
Jointer?
And guess on what tool? No, it was the most ridiculous tool ever to lose your finger on. It was
Jigsaw?
an angle grinder with a flap disc of all things. So it sanded my thumb.
Just
like,
held it on there for a little bit.
It just, and I had gloves on. So imagine I didn't.
Wow.
Because the glove, it went right through the glove, and I was in the garage, and I go, and I'm very highly trained, I should say, in first aid and all that, and how to react to situations like that. So it happens to my own hand. I immediately go to myself, I got to turn off everything before I, potentially either faint or something else happens. So I shut off everything that's on, heater, air cleaner, the tool itself, because that's still spinning.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, my glove is on. Do I want to take this off now or wait up? Because I knew this one was bad, right? So I go inside and I go, and the mistake I made was, I don't know how many of us are dads here, but I said it loud in the house. I go, okay, Vicky, that's my wife. I go, this one's gonna cause me to go to the hospital, so I'll be back in a bit, right? I'm just gonna go deal with this. You deal with everything at home. And I made the mistake of saying that out loud, so my kids are like crying. They come running out. What happened? I'm like, no, I'm fine. So I go to one knee because I'm starting to feel faint, right? So then I go back out to the garage, take it off, and it's like, good half that thumb is like just juice and meat and blood. So I wrap it up and I go, okay, luckily I live maybe 7 minutes from like a major hospital, a very good hospital. So I make my way up there, and then they go, holy shit. And it ended up being like not that serious. I think it was like 6 staples, not even stitches. And then
in your thumb though, that's like
in my thumb. It was terrible, dude. It was absolutely terrible. Anyway, so that's my story. So how I would improve that would
how would you improve
I would never use a flap disc again. I would just no, but I guess the same technology. If somehow you could touch as soon as but see, I was wearing gloves, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They say with like a saw stop, you shouldn't wear gloves because it's actually a little safer if you don't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So with the
I wouldn't
ankle,
wear.
what happened with the ankle grinder? Did it like
table,
catch and kind of like skip across the stump?
No. I actually don't remember. I have it on video, to be honest, somewhere. I have it on video, but it was working with a stump. And I think what happened was I locked it in. Because I remember doing a post afterwards when I came back from the hospital teaching people, don't lock in your ankle grinder.
Yeah.
So I had locked it in, and for some reason...
Like the power button, you locked it on.
The power button. You know how you keep it on, right? And now you don't have to hold the power button down. Not all tools have that, obviously. Yeah. Ones where... hopefully the manufacturer realizes like there's no need for this person to ever keep said tool on lockdown. Those tools don't have it, but this one has it. So it was locked on, and I believe it hit maybe a burl or something, and it jumped. And I don't know if I went to grab it or something. It just basically, it's still sensitive as fuck to this day, like in cold weather or hot weather. The other day I hit a metal slide trying to reach my kid and tag at the park, but he was too fast. So boom, I hit the slide instead, and like it shot like a feeling through my entire arm, Anyways, I've talked too much about my injury. Any of you guys ever have anything bad?
So your solution would be some sort of like saw stop flesh sensing technology on there.
Yeah, Because I have an angle grinder that will stop pretty quickly. Like as soon as you take your finger off the trigger, it's like, a second and then it's...
Do you have the DeWalt one where you have to like hit that safety down and then like basically squeeze the barrel of it, and as soon as you let go of the barrel, it opens this big flap and stops?
Yeah.
Usually in like 2 seconds.
That's what I have now. Yeah,
That's what I've got. I've got the same one.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pain.
Yeah. But it's funny, like miter saws, like how they have that big flappy plastic guard that comes down a lot of the time, and a lot of guys will remove that because it's so annoying and it gets caught on stuff a lot.
Yeah.
All these little safety things. It's like you hate them but I guess you never really even realize the times when it saves a finger or part of a finger in Vic's case.
Yeah.
I was just watching a video actually by I forget his name, but 731 Woodworks.
Oh yeah.
I just threw it on randomly because I was watching X-Tool videos actually, and then it led me to one of his videos, and it was just on the 12 like top things you should not do on a table saw, or 12 things you shouldn't do, or whatever, one of those. And that big ass, I don't know if you guys keep it on, like by all means do what you got to do, but that big ass plastic blade cover that comes with the table saws, that's like the first thing I take off, and then I always realize I'm like doing all these videos that people see by the thousands, like should I keep it on? I don't even know where it is, to be honest. I can't keep that big. I know I can't keep that.
You can't see the blade.
Honestly,
I truly would argue that it's
a pain in the ass. Like I haven't had it in years. What's that?
I said I make the worst cuts when I leave it on.
For sure, you can't see what's going on
because you can't see it. Yeah, but I leave the raving knife on.
The raving knife on. I would be fine with keeping it on if I was like a cabinet shop and all of my cuts were like bigger than 12 inches.
Well, have you ever been in a cabinet shop? They'll have one, but it's big. Like it's really wide and it's clear plastic.
Yeah.
So that you can actually see through it pretty well.
And most of them, you have to have a ridiculous dust collector anyway for it to actually like pull the dust out of the bottom of the cabinet and get the stuff up on the top of the table as well.
Yeah.
If you're running like a shop vac trying to do both, you're not doing anything.
I think the table saw is the most underrated tool for creating dust versus what people think. I think the table saw creates so much more dust than other tools that people put way more effort into. Like, don't get me wrong, the CNC, yes, obviously lots of offcuts or dust or whatever little chips, but the table saw, whenever you want to run like a couple pieces through thinking like, oh, I'll just do this quickly, I always put on my glasses even for one cut, but mask is very rare. Like it's like that has to be like in my mind, like, okay, I'm out in the shop for like, I'm spending time in the shop, I'll put on my mask. But when I'm just making a couple cuts, table saw is the biggest. It's a bandit for that. Next thing you know, after like 3 cuts, you're choking to death and shit.
Everybody bitches about the miter saw. The table saw is way worse.
Well, the table saw is tough because you have dust down below and above, and like Eric was saying, you need a crazy amount of suction in order to cover both your bases. And let's face it, most people just have the one down below if they have anything.
Right.
And yeah. And have that dust just flying straight up in the air.
Collector at the same time as my table saw, so I'll make a cut, and then after the cut, I turn the dust collector on. And dude, I have to clean out the bottom cabinet of my table saw once a week.
Yeah.
And it just jams up the gears. Like it gets to the point where my fence doesn't even slide, and I go, oh, it's a nightmare.
I had one of those good cleaning sessions last night. I had a few drinks, and
that's the best time to do it.
This morning, Vic was so pleased with last night's drinking because I went out there and like I cleaned my entire shop, and it was messy yesterday. I did a bunch of cuts and stuff. And then this morning I go out there completely forgetting that I did that. Also not realizing like, oh, I'm walking out to a mess. So I didn't expect either or. I just opened up my garage door and was like, yes, Vic, good for you. It was like spotless, right? I was like, this is fantastic. Ready to start the day. But anyways, I digress about how much I drink. Sorry, boys.
You ever do the toothbrush on all the gears and really get the sawdust out of the gears? It's
I use
so
a
satisfying.
Yeah, I'll take it, I'll spray them all, watch the drippings come off, and then scrub it clean.
And then you go to adjust the blade, and you're like,
oh,
This thing is ripping.
Yeah.
Why does it sound like a
and the blade
1950s
just goes,
tractor?
Yeah.
But
You want to lift it like a 1/8 of an inch, but it like goes up like 4 inches.
blade goes through the ceiling. It launches itself out of the table saw.
It's too clean now.
Nick, to answer your question, my worst woodworking injury is with a drill. I was using a what do you call it? A doweling jig, right? So you put that little metal stop collar around the drill bit, so it just goes in a little bit.
Yep. Yeah.
Somehow I had gotten my hand like under the piece of wood that I was holding, so I drilled down and it went right into my finger. And so my finger, let's see if it'll focus. See how
yeah.
That's just what my fingernail looks like. It's just like all
Always?
Yeah.
Like it'll never grow back?
Never grows back. It just is like has some weird cutout on it.
My finger came back eventually.
No. It's just it grows like at it's like a mountain peak. It's very strange. So yeah, I mean the stop collars on drill bits suck. Like there's no way to actually like affix it. They always slip because it has one little like set screw and then I don't know.
You got to use the Allen key and try to hit that like the outer part of the bit. You know what I mean? Not the inner part, and then hope it, like, just tighten it with a little Allen key and hope it doesn't move. But then even then, like there's a good chance it's like angled off. So as soon as it starts spinning fast, yeah, you're right. Piece of masking tape is just use a piece of masking tape in your.
I honestly think that's safer. I truly think that's safer.
But sometimes with the masking tape, even the masking tape, it slowly starts to wear away as you do more and more holes, and before you know it, your last hole is like twice as deep.
The masking tape is not science, because when you think that flap is like, okay, I'm flat now, you're like like a 1/4 inch under in the hole already. You know what I mean?
And on your fourth one, it's all bunched up.
Here's what they need. Here's what they need. I've cracked the code. You need a drill with a like really long chuck, like the inside cylinder of the chuck is really long, and then you have an adjustable stop. So you basically put the drill bit all the way into your drill, and then you move the stop in there forward and back.
Yeah. See, the problem is we could come up with all these solutions, but then we're just like, I would never use that. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine how cumbersome that drill would be? This drill would be 16.5 feet long.
It takes like 12 minutes to set up for one drill. Like just to drill one hole.
You gotta drive to your neighbor's house just to load the drill bit in.
Yeah.
You need two friends over?
Guys, collar that's
are you free Wednesday?
Perfectly.
What were you saying, Deric?
The boys all come over. They bring beers. All right, let's get to work. You drill one hole. All right, guys. One guy drove like 3 hours. No. I'd rather have the angle grinder that shuts off automatically when it touches skin.
True.
You know what the best tool is? Is that and this is not sponsored by DeWalt. Is the DeWalt cordless trim router, man. You turn it off.
Yeah.
Boom. Done.
Yeah. Although I will say that it has a switch I never know where it is. Every time I use that trim router, I'm like, where's the GD switch on this thing? Yeah. I wish that they had it wasn't like a lockout. It was more like an angle grinder. Because have you ever dropped a trim router? Like, say you like catch a knot or something and it slips out of your hand and then it's just running and it's loose. It's one of the scariest things in the world.
Reminds me of those children's toys, the little like spiky ball that you press and it vibrates all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Dogs go crazy around it.
Yeah. Except with a router can like actually really kill you.
Yeah.
Routers are scary. I remember I did a video once again, you live and learn. I did. Now that I think back,
staining.
Well, the staining one's infamous. That one's I can't even talk about that anymore. That one's in a museum. But I did a video once where I took a router. Never mind, you know how people will clamp down a random orbital sander to stand pieces upside down. Yeah. So I did that with a router once and used it as as if it was like a router table, but it's not a table. It's the full router exposed, right? So when I was running pieces through it, man, like some people that set people off in the comments, right? About like, what are you doing?
Oh, sure.
You're gonna die, this and that. And I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't show this stuff, but like if you could easily do it. Like, I mean, it might not be the safest, but
that's part of being a content creator too, is like knowing the stuff. It's like, okay, I know I'm not going to include this in the video because it's going to make people angry, but I'm still going to do it because it's like it's the easiest way to get this job done.
I did it with a hand planer once too, like an electric one with the DeWalt one, and same thing. I was like, you run like the piece through as if it's like a joiner, but then at the end of it, the way a joiner like gives you kind of like the protection of the actual like machine itself. This is just a little hand tool in a clamp, right? So people were, I remember one guy messaged me, like a good friend too, was like, dude, please don't show that. Like you're gonna get some amateur really hurt. And I'm like, you're right. I took it down, you know.
True.
Yeah.
Would you ever do stuff intentionally just to set people off? And
I don't. No, I honestly don't. No, I don't.
Oh, you got actually study at the school of Eric Spenceley.
Yeah.
I'll do random clips that are just like I'll be cutting something and it'll like pan down at my feet, and just for that clip I'll like take my shoes off so it looks like I'm just working barefoot. People get so mad and stuff like that. Yeah, flip flops.
No, I don't. I just I try to. I don't have any business insurance, so I do the opposite. I try to stay pretty safe so people don't sue me for my videos. You know what they saw me do.
I would love to know if there's ever been anybody who got sued for. Yeah, I've never heard any stories, but I know
that would be
theoretically
hard to prove,
it's possible.
Right?
Yeah.
Like how many? Let's say someone watches my video of chainsawing a stump and goes and cuts their leg off. Realistically, like there's a million chainsawing videos out there, so how can they even prove it was mine? All that, I don't know how that would go in court. I'm sure you could sue. You just gotta call Celino and Barnes. Not sponsored yet.
Is that one of your very generic Toronto area?
That's like a classic like radio ad. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it's Buffalo.
That's do you guys still have your duct cleaning scam going on?
No, I haven't got one of those calls in a while. Oh, you got it still?
Okay. Yeah. I got it not that long ago at work.
So how does the duct cleaning scam work?
I don't think that's a scam. That's one where they might actually want to like come and clean your ducts, honestly. Because you don't pay until they come and all that. But there's a million other scams. It's just the scam behind that is like, who are these people that are like gonna come clean your ducts, you know? And ultimately, like, unless you give them your full information ahead of time, and they're like, all right, well, we have to first charge you, then I could see it working that way. But I think these guys are legitimately looking for people's ducts to clean. But there's
I think I watched a YouTube video of a guy once where he actually went through with booking it and had the guy come out to his house. And a guy did come, but there was still like a scammy element to it. Like the guy came to his house and like said he cleaned his ducts, but the guy was like, well, I don't have any ducts, so obviously he didn't do anything. It was something like that.
Or the price I told you is for 2 ducts, but you have 25 in your house. So that's going to be
maybe it was something like that.
And now that I'm already here, you have to pay. Or I could see that sort of scam, but
we should. I got this like a woodworkers
scam.
Like no,
see how far we can take it.
Ted's word.
It's called the Green Suiters Podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Available on all podcast platforms.
It's terrible. I heard.
We need to do like it. It sucks. It's awful. Don't listen to it. It's straight garbage. That's the Green Suiters podcast. We need to do like a 60 minutes, like exposing, expose woodworking.
Yeah.
So, you know, like they'll have the thing where they put like the hidden camera inside of a car, and they go and they just like blow one fuse, and they take it to these repair shops, and they're like, "Oh man, your alternator's gonna or like you know." Or you blew a gasket, or you need
a new car,
right?
You need new head washer fluid or headlight fluid,
right? Yeah.
Brake fluid's my favorite for everything. You always need brake fluid.
Who's the
How
host
could
of the
you
show?
do that with woodworking? Like, what expose could you do on woodworking?
You have to get into people's shops, right, and then order a table or something.
Yeah.
And just. I'm like, hey, but listen, man, I really, because of my dead grandfather, I really want this certain kind of joinery on that table. Can you do it? Yeah, I could do that, no problem. And then once it's glued together, right, they use fucking dowels or something. But
there's pocket screws all throughout it.
I guarantee there's. I mean, I would seriously think, could you do any sort of expos that?
Yeah.
What about going to where all the tools are made and seeing if there's actually any difference between, like a Powermatic table saw and like a Jet table saw and like all those brands, if there's actually any difference between them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
They're probably all made in the same factory, to be honest.
Right.
Sure. For sure they are. Yeah.
Close enough, anyways.
Yeah.
Or at least components of them. I'm guarantee they borrow components from one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What maker would be the host of this show?
Someone who's willing to get arrested in China, because that's where all the factories are. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyone that seems ballsy enough to do it.
Yeah.
Live reporting from the streets. This is. I don't know.
I don't know. I think J-Cats might be pretty good for it. He's got like TV show host energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's got the hair for it too.
Yeah.
But Jason will go in a library and cut up some wood for you.
That's true.
Yeah, I could see Hibbs doing it.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
I don't know. Zach, what's your worst woodworking injury?
It's okay. It's funny. It happened a long time ago. So I was probably 18 or 19 at the time. And I was using a reciprocating saw. Yeah. Long time ago.
Cutting the water.
Yeah, so I was changing the blade on a reciprocating saw, and this was an old Milwaukee Sawzall design. They had this, you could like rotate you could pivot the saw. So there was the part that you held, and there was a detent you could press, and you could like change the angle of it. So it could either go from 90 degrees to 0 degrees to flat like that. And the trigger was on the underside of it. So I was changing the blade. I had the saw between my legs. It was still plugged in. Ooh. And I was holding the collar. You had to grip the collar and twist it. And
you cut both your balls off?
No, but I did mangle 2 of my fingers pretty good. Because I triggered the machine with my thigh, and then the head started going in and out and just whacked my fingers twice, like really hard. And there was that blade guard on there, so they were confined and they couldn't move around that much. That was one of those ones where, again, like Vic, like what you were saying, it's like I knew the damage was bad, and I just like wrapped it up in my t-shirt really quickly and didn't even look at it. And you just like, you wait. You're like, okay, this really hurts.
Yeah.
At what point am I going to remove the cloth that's around it and inspect how bad this damage is? Yeah. I probably waited a good 5 minutes before I actually looked at it.
Brace yourself.
Thankfully, no lasting damage, and also thankfully, you know what? At the end of the day, it was just some pretty bad cuts on 2 of my fingers. But there's no broken bones, no missing pieces. So
see, if that was a DeWalt tool, you would have cut both your fingers off.
That's true. It was one of those trash Milwaukee tools.
Yeah.
But you know what I did notice was I don't think I was the only one that happened to, because the next version of the Sawzall that came out the year after or something like that, there was then a guard around that blade, or around the trigger, I should say. Huh. So you couldn't, when you're if you're doing what I was doing and you put it between your legs to hold it to change the blade, you couldn't then trigger it with your thighs.
Couldn't bump it on accidentally.
Yeah. I will say that's one thing that I'm overly cautious about. I always unplug my table saw if I change the blades, and always take the battery out of the cordless trim router, and I'm overly careful about that.
It's a good habit to be in.
Yeah. Deric, let's hear it. What was your worst woodworking injury?
Well, I got to be honest. I have not really had one. I've done some
knock on wood
sketchy stuff, but luckily nothing has happened really bad. I had kickback once, and it hit me in the side of the stomach pretty hard. So I had a little bruise there for a couple weeks. That was probably the worst. But
that's not nothing.
About 15, 16 years ago, I was with a box cutter, and cutting something open, and it was right on my lap. And the blade embedded itself fully in my thigh.
Dude, you got some big hooves in your thigh too.
Luckily, I didn't hit anything. But that wasn't. It wasn't woodworking related or anything. I was just fooling around in my bedroom, cutting. I forget what I was cutting up, but I was cutting up something.
Yeah.
Asparagus.
Your thigh.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I got a pretty good.
Just put a big Band-Aid on it and kept on.
Oh,
Yeah.
super glued it shut.
Yeah.
No, I should have.
Yeah, super glue is good to have around for that.
Abs page.
Yeah.
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 Only thighs.
Abs on there.
Only thighs.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, we hit an hour. What do you say we head over to the after show?
I think that sounds like a great plan.
All right. We want to give a huge shout out to our returning top tier patrons that's helping keep this thing alive. Excuse me. We got Joe Welsh at Delaware Valley Workshop, Goblin Spanker, Dan Armendrez, Corey Duvall, Dadu, and Josh at Sawdust Builds. Those are just some of the patrons helping keep this thing alive. And if you want to unlock the after show, which we got some questions for you tonight, Vic. I hope you're ready.
Oh, I'm not, but
get ready. If you want to unlock the after show and get all the other perks and just support the show so we can keep doing this, go to patreon.com/offthecut podcast and make sure you go check out For the Gram podcast on all the other streaming platforms and become a patron over there too. There's good. You guys got a good group chat going.
Yeah, we have a good group chat going. It's we got to admit it. It's been a little bit. Dom and I are in the works in the background as to what we can come back with better this year. Podcasts, as you guys know, it's hard to keep going sometimes. So we're taking a little break now. We do our breaks before the summer because everyone takes summer breaks. So we do our break now, and then we're going to be live throughout the entire summer. So
okay, I like it.
Any other shameless plugs you need to get out of the way before we head to the after show?
No, I want everyone to unfollow the Stump Shop on Instagram. Because he sucks. And that's it.
Well, Vic,
and on that note, we're out.
Yeah, on that note, we're out. Vic, thanks for joining us, man. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
No, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
See you, everybody.
See you.
Ciao.
Later.